Hi guys, welcome back to another video with myself, crypto banker SHX. Before we dive into today's video, just disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor and nothing I say or do should be taken as financial advice. Now, if you are enjoying the content of the channel, please do like, share, subscribe. Please turn notifications on to be the first to be alerted to any fresh SHX content that I put out there. Also, you can follow me on X. My X is x.com/cryptobankershx. Now, to begin today's video, this is a post that I made on the 11th of January this year, and it states that given the insane connections that SHX has with XRP, an XRP ETF would be absolute fire for SHX, and given the insane connections that SHX has with XLM and Stellar, an XLM ETF would be absolute Valhalla for SHX. And just my own personal opinion, but I find it very, very bullish that now we see the public statements of BlackRock, but also the public statements of Brad Garlinghouse, the Ripple CEO, in relation to his thoughts on a potential XRP ETF. And there's a few things in this clip that really stood out to me. The first is that he is quoted saying, "I think it's inevitable that there will be multiple ETFs around different tokens." He also goes on to state that this will be based on the tokens that have real world utility and are solving real world problems. But also, he wouldn't be making these very presumptuous and also bullish statements unless he knew that they had already gained approval for an XRP ETF. And I'll just play this clip now.
So you would welcome an XRP ETF then?
We would certainly welcome it, and I think it's inevitable that there'll be, multiple ETFs around different tokens. And I think you'll even see ETFs potentially around baskets that also, I think, further diversify that risk.
Given there's so much excitement around the ETF dynamic here, are you in talks with the largest issuers, particularly BlackRock, to get this done?
Well, I'm not going to comment on that. I know BlackRock has said some things publicly. We think it makes sense for the XRP community overall. Ripple obviously is a very important stakeholder in the XRP ecosystem, but we're not the only player. And look, we've seen, before the SEC lawsuit, XRP was the second most valuable digital asset. I think because of the headwinds of that lawsuit, we've now seen that largely abate. But the long-term view on these things is about, how do you create utility and really solve real-world problems with these different digital assets? Bitcoin's doing that very well as a store of value. XRP and its dynamics around being very fast, very efficient, and low cost on a per transaction basis makes it ideal for payments. And that's where Ripple really has leaned into as a company.
So yeah, extremely bullish for him to be stating that now in public. And also, if we look back at Grayscale, this is from the NASDAQ website, Grayscale have re-included XRP in its fund, so in the Grayscale Digital Large Cap Fund. And I don't know whether many of you are aware of this, but you can actually buy Ripple XRP ETPs, which are provided in other countries outside of the US, in the likes of Switzerland. But what is very, very interesting, and what is, I don't think, very well known, is that Grayscale already have a Stellar Lumens Trust with the ticker GXLM. And so Grayscale already have a Stellar Lumens Trust, which is one of the first securities solely invested in and deriving value from the price of Lumens XLM, that enables investors to gain exposure to XLM in the form of a security while avoiding the challenges of buying, storing, and safekeeping XLM directly. And when we begin to think about the capabilities of Soroban and smart contracts coming to Stellar, the fact that Grayscale already offer this, I think that means it's only really a matter of time before we also see an XLM ETF. And what that means for SHX is, in my opinion, very, very bullish, because it will bring a massive amount of liquidity and attention to the Stellar network. It's also very important to note that these institutions and governments have been utilizing the Stellar blockchain compliantly for over 5 years now, and they've been building custom assets on the Stellar blockchain as well as managing on-chain US money funds. So Franklin Templeton, for example, have the Franklin on-chain US government money fund, which manages over $270 million in assets for the US government, and it is the first US registered mutual fund to process transactions and record share ownership on the Stellar blockchain. So for me, all of the stars are really aligning for not only XRP, but also Stellar and XLM. And even when we look back at, say, for example, 2019, and I posted this back at the beginning of November last year on X, this is a discussion that was had between Jesse Lund, who was at IBM at the time, Michael Warner of the Federal Reserve Bank in San Francisco, Tammy Camp, the CEO of Stronghold, and Jed McCaleb, who obviously is the CEO of Stellar. And the discussion was focusing on central bank digital currencies and their impact on local economies and cryptocurrencies, and how crypto assets are being used to make payments on blockchain. And if we're thinking about the tokenization of value and what that means and what they've been doing, well, these organizations, these large financial institutions, governments have already been utilizing the Stellar blockchain, and Stronghold SHX, StrongholdNET is built on Stellar. And so I'm just going to play this clip now, but this was back in 2019 when most people didn't even know what a central bank digital currency was, and I'll just play it now.
That's great. So as you bring up this idea of one network or a series of interoperable networks, but let's just assume it's kind of like one logical network, and on that are tokens that represent ownership of real-world assets, including cash, but also other asset classes. And those can be dynamically, kind of swapped in real time. That seems to me to have a huge implication for the future of just transaction processing everywhere, right? I mean, if you look at all sorts of markets, the capital markets, and this what I would consider to be somewhat absurd notion that between the time that you commit to buying a security on a stock exchange and the time it's actually yours and you've paid for it can be like 2 to 3 days later. That just seems, unreasonable maybe. So as we carry this forward, and maybe this is for any of you who would like to answer, but where does this all go? I mean, when assets are represented digitally and they can therefore be exchanged, and the asset represents ownership on the digital asset represents ownership on the underlying physical asset, and we can kind of exchange these things dynamically in real time. What does that do to markets today, in your mind?
I mean, there should just be way less friction, and they should be way more efficient. And people can, you could buy your coffee with your Apple shares or something like that, because these are just assets that can be converted in between each other. So it just opens up like a world of possibilities that I think we'll be surprised by the results.
Right.
And there you have it. So they already knew what was coming, and they've already planned accordingly. And guys, that's the end of today's video. I just want to say thank you to everyone that subscribes to the channel. I actually reached 2,000 subscribers. It was only 3 weeks ago that I was at 1,000 subscribers. So thank you to all you guys that are subscribed and watch, share, like, and comment on the content. It really does mean a lot to me. And I'm proud to be the original and only YouTube channel exclusively dedicated to Stronghold and SHX. And you guys are all awesome, so thank you. And I will see you on the next one.